Every minute, somewhere around the world, a goodbye is taking place. A mother wipes her tears as her son boards the boat to Lagos, and a father embraces her daughter as she leaves for London. A young graduate stares through the window of an aircraft, carrying the luggage filled with hopes and uncertainty. A family locks the door to a home they may never return to. Perhaps you have lived the movement, and perhaps you have not. Perhaps someone you love has, and even now, perhaps you are preparing for your own journey. For thousands of years, humanity has always been on the move. People have crossed deserts, rivers, oceans, continents in search of something they think will give their children a better future. We call it migration, but over the years I've come to believe that we have misunderstood what migration is all really about. So we usually explain it with familiar words: job, opportunity, education, security, and healthcare. Those answers are true, but I no longer think they are complete. Because behind every invisible answer or reason is an invisible search. This invisible search has occupied my mind throughout the years. It followed me through oil and gas, it followed me through banking, through entrepreneurship, through innovation, to meeting with farmers, to community development, through even my interactions with students and the global world at large, even business communities. Everywhere I went, I observed the same mystery. Why do some society consistently help ordinary people to produce extraordinary future together? Why some societies fail to do the same? That question refused to leave me. Then another question emerged. Why do some people leave their communities and villages for Lagos? Why do some people pack their baggages for London? Why do others dream of San Francisco, of Singapore, of Toronto, of Dubai, of Las Vegas? The obvious answer is opportunity. But opportunity itself is not an explanation. Opportunity is a result of something else. So I begin to ask a different question. What then creates opportunities? Imagine arriving in a great city for the very first time. Perhaps it's Lagos, perhaps it's Singapore, perhaps it's London, perhaps it's New York, perhaps it's Dubai. You notice the skyline, the roads, the rails, the energy, the airport. So after a while, I began to realize that none of these things explains why people kept coming. The buildings may be visible, but there are other invisible things that continue to draw people to these cities. Every morning, millions of strangers wake up and somehow manage to work together to build a complete society. They trust people they have never met. They work with people they have never known. They buy food from strangers. They deposit money with strangers. They bought aircraft with strangers. Receive treatment from doctors they've never met before. Think about that for a moment. Perhaps civilizations and its builders' greatest accomplishment is not the skyscrapers. Perhaps it is making strangers trustworthy enough to build together. Growing up, I often heard older Nigerians describe a country where graduates found job before graduation, where a person's word carried more weight, and where communities work together in trust, doing great things. And when communities trusted one another more deeply. Looking back, I don't think they were remembering prosperity. I think they were remembering stronger invisible infrastructure. Then something occurred to me. Perhaps people did not move because opportunity exists. I think opportunity exists because something invisible already exists. And I mean invisible infrastructures like trust, competence, reliable institutions, constructive corporations, and shared responsibilities. Now, if you ever move from your village to Lagos, or from Lagos to London, or you dare dream of a place where the future can be better than today, you were not only searching for opportunity, you were searching for the invisible architecture that makes opportunity possible. Because the future is built long before it ever becomes visible. And today, I want us to discover how. So what captures your attention, whether in Lagos, or in London, or in San Francisco, or in Sao Paulo is the highway, the skyline, the roads, the rail, the power. This is what every visitor says. But I want to suggest something unusual. You see, the city that we admire, it's not built by civilization. It is only its visible expression that you see. Think about a bridge. Many people admire it, but many people never admire or think about the invisible things that make the bridge possible in the first place. The engineer who refused shortcuts, the investors trusted the project, the judge who protected the contract, the institution who enforced standard, the worker who arrived every morning determined to work excellently, the citizens who believe public property must be protected. Without these invisible realities, the bridge never exists. The bridge is not the beginning. The bridge is the evidence. And perhaps every prosperous society is like this. We celebrate the visible, whereas without the invisible visible does not exist. But the visible is sustained by the invisible. And perhaps this explains why two countries may build similar airport, yet produce completely different futures. Or why two nations, blessed with similar natural resources, can experience radically different destinies. But prosperity is rarely built from outside in. It's built from inside out. The more I reflect on this, the more I realize that every flourishing civilization takes a time to invest in things that cannot be photographed. And I mean trust, competence, integrity, respect for agreement, justice. In communities where corporations become normal, these are not glamorous. They don't make headlines. No tourists take photographs of trust. Yet, trust may be more valuable than the highest skyscraper. No investor fly across the world to admire integrity. Yet, integrity may determine whether the business or the investment take place in the first place. And no child grows up dreaming of living inside an institution. Yet, institution protects virtually whether the dream of that child is going to come to a reality or was sustained. And slowly, a pattern begins to emerge. And with this came the first principle that will shape my thinking. So people are not simply attracted to prosperous societies. They are attracted to societies where constructive cooperation works. That became the first law of societal abundance. And the law states, human beings migrate towards better systems of constructive cooperation. Notice that I did not simply say cooperation, because history reminds us of people who cooperate towards exploitation, to corruption, to wage war, to destroy. This is not the sort of cooperation that builds civilization. Civilization flourished through constructive cooperation. The kind of cooperation that creates value rather than extract it, that rewards contribution rather than manipulation, that transforms strangers into partners, that convert trust into opportunities, that allows millions of ordinary people to create extraordinary outcomes together. This realization also changed the way I see prosperity itself. For years, I believed that prosperity was something society accumulated. But today, I think differently. Prosperity is constructive coordination made possible. Think about it. And this is what I mean. A thriving market is coordinated exchange. A successful university is coordinated knowledge. Great business is coordinated talent. A functional hospital is coordinated competence. A flourishing nation is coordinated responsibilities. Prosperity is not the achievement of isolated individuals. It is the visible expressions of millions of constructed acts of constructive coordination repeated over the years, sometimes generations. And perhaps this explains why societies rarely collapse suddenly. The skyline are still there. The rail remains. The building is still visible, but something underneath is collapsing. The invisible infrastructures are going. Promise becomes less reliable. Institutions become less trusted. Competence is replaced with connection, and hope gives way to cynicism. So the visible decline comes later. The visible decline is immediate. And this is why rebuilding prosperity is not merely an economic project. It's a societal project. It begins by rebuilding the invisible architectures that allow strangers to dream, to trust, to build together, and to flourish together. But if this is true, then another question confronts us. How does a society begin to rebuild its invisible architecture once it has begun to weaken? That is where I want to take you next. So I ask you to watch out for the part B of this episode 16, which will come out in a few days' time. I thank you for thinking with me. If this conversation resonates with you, I'd love you to drop a comment. I'll read them. And please endeavor to share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. I'm Segun Oke, the Abundance Evangelist. Thank you.